Yo, 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 my buddies. Give a big special shout out to Epidemic Sound. That's where I get this music from. Thank you very much. So I want to first welcome everybody to this live stream. Uh, Several weeks ago, I made the commitment. I said at least once a week, I'm gonna get on here and I'm gonna spit some wisdom and speak. And I think I'm a little off on the weekly, and it's getting better, and I'll get better with it. I just want to make sure I do my best to get this information out. So get my reps in, I like to say. So welcome to this live stream. This live stream is called Wounds on Repeat. What the hell does that even mean? Well, listen, if you're someone that has experienced repeated consequences or repeated results, the same results, this video is for you. This video is for you. And I'm going to ask a question to kick off. Have you ever looked back on your life and realized that you're repeating patterns? Maybe. I know for me, that's something that I recognized recently, especially. And when I say recently, I would say within the past year. I really started looking at my relationships and looking at, like, damn, um, hey, these relationships aren't working out. What's the common factor? Me. It's me. It's me. So this gives me an opportunity rather than beat myself up, which I would usually tend to do. It gave me an opportunity to really look at, like, well, okay, what's going on here? And I noticed that for myself, like I started to notice the repeating patterns in my relationships. I started to notice that in my career. I started to notice that even in my health. So if you find yourself repeating these patterns, I think you're going to find benefit in this information because I'm going to share with you four keys that I've uncovered as I look back on my journey that have helped me to really lock in to stop repeating patterns, to address what is the root of those repeated patterns and behaviors. And usually it's some sort of wound. So here's how this all came out. I'm gonna give you the context to this before I dive into the all the goody goods. All right. So um I've had a couple life experiences, and recently like I've experienced the repeated pattern that came from a recent court case that I'm actually still in. So I'm going to speak about that once it's all over. And also I recognize a repeating pattern in my health. So I realized that after I really started to dive into these, specifically talking about what happened with the court case, I recognized my choice in partners or my choice in girlfriends wasn't always the greatest. And and it helped me recognize, well, what was the reason I repeated these patterns of having the same kind of women. And it got me to a wound of abandonment, and it got me to a wound of, if I really give all of myself, they're going to leave. So I would never give all of myself. I would give them what I thought they wanted, which was a recipe for disaster because I was never truly being myself. Now, that was in the relationship part, so I'll dive into that a little bit more as we go into it. But what I realized about my health is I realized that my pattern with my health is in destructive or stress eating. So when I'm going through some things, like my immediate go-to is to have some sort of food to comfort me. So that could be like fast food, that could be a really delicious bagel with like a ton of eggs. That could also be beverages. That could be like some heavy, dense food. And usually those types of things aren't the greatest for me because it slows down a lot of my systems. I started to recognize the health one when I was in that recent 21-day detox with the ozone performance. But I also recognized that it all came to a head when I was in meditation. I was looking back on these situations. And I was like, damn, there were wounds. Until I finally addressed it, I recognized that there were wounds that were at the genesis of all this. So when I look at that now, what I see is there were four paths that I've taken to now start to begin to change these behaviors. And once I recognized those patterns and behaviors, I was like, okay, I get to make a conscious effort to adjust or to do something that is in alignment with who I really am rather than in alignment with a wound. Okay. So when I look at that, there's four different things. There's four pillars that, or four keys that I found that really worked. The first one is to identify the hidden wound. The second one is to know your wound cycle. The third one is have your tools and tactics. And the fourth one is embrace and grow. So let's dive into each one of these goody goods. And listen, if as you're watching this, if you're watching the replay, you can do hashtag replay. Thank you, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And then if you're on YouTube or whatever the outlet or wherever you're seeing this, if you have a question or about one of these that I failed to answer in the video as I'm diving into each one of these, put it in the comments and I'll respond back to it, and then we'll go from there. So let's dive into each four of these. So the first one that we have is identify the hidden wounds. So to really look into this, I'm going to take relationship. Now, when I look back at my past relationships, I realized that to be transparent, like a lot of former girlfriends ended up leaving, um they just like what they there's a whole lot to that I may have to do in a whole other video, just let you know. And what I recognize is there was a sense of abandonment. Like they like in a lot of their words, like they said I had abandoned them. And what was really interesting when I was looking at this, consciously looking at my past and like even things I heard or experienced or felt, that word abandonment came up, and then I recognized as above, so below. So what's within me is also outside of me. So the fact that I can recall them saying like you abandoned me, you abandoned us, he recognized like, dang, I was choosing these different partners or these different girlfriends because I didn't want to be abandoned. So rather than be my authentic self, I was playing a role or masking who I was. I was giving them who I thought they wanted. Yet the thing is the more that we were in relationship and the more intimate the relationship became, there was a recognition that like I wasn't that dude. And whether they recognize it, but also for me, I was like, yo, I can't keep putting up this mask. They're gonna have to see who I really am. In those cases, it didn't work out. So that hidden wound was abandonment. So until I addressed the wound that they're going to abandon me, they're all gonna leave. It wasn't until I addressed that wound that I was able to really start to embrace what a relationship can really look like and who I would want to have as a girlfriend. Like, what are those qualities? What are those things that I'm feeling? And it's going to come from my authentic self rather than from a wound. So a lot of times, again, you're gonna have to dig into this. If you need support, like DM me or something, or we could like either I could help or I could find a resource to help. But this is where you're gonna have to have your tools and tactics, which we're gonna tap into in a little bit, to really begin to unearth what that hidden wound is. Now, the next phase of this is knowing your wound cycle. What do I mean by this? Now that you've identified the hidden wound, now I'm going to speak from the I. So once I identified the hidden wound, then I had to look at, okay, when does this wound pop up? Okay. So still staying with the relationship piece of this, I recognize my wound cycle where that abandonment got activated is when I would do something that I thought they wanted and I would get rejected. Okay. What that brought up in me was, oh, junk, they're going to leave me. So that would have me want to defend my position or try to kowtow or do whatever I had to, or like really get defensive and kind of jab, be mean about things. There would be different tactics, but what was underneath it all was that abandonment, that hidden wound got activated when something happened, when I got challenged, when I was rejected for doing something I thought that they wanted. So me being able to identify that also helps me to identify, not be free of the romantic and just like the relationship with the girlfriend. I'm talking about you like this is goes beyond that. This goes even to a relationship with your family, your friends. Like what are those ways that you what are the ways in which you interact, or what are the cycles that activate these wounds? Knowing that cycle, or knowing it's more of uh I don't, I prefer using like I really am not far from a family word trigger, but it's really like what activates that wound. Like, so what's the prompt? I think prompt might be a better word than cycle, but basically, what's the prompt or cycle where this hidden wound keeps coming up? Now, once you've identified the hidden wound, and then the frequency or the cycle in which that wound comes up, now you can start to look at what are the tools and tactics you have to address that wound and rewire stuff so I can see things from a different perspective. So for me, my tools are shaman journeys, drum journeys, my visualization meditations, and also parts work, internal family system. Some may look at it like I learned parts work from the Omega Point Academy, getting to recognize parts of myself or be able to take myself out of a situation that's happening internally and be able to like basically act as if that part of me that's having an issue or having a challenge is a personality that I could talk to, figure out its wants, like what's going on. So when I encountered, or when I finally got to what the hidden wounds were and what the cycles were, now I was able to use the tool of, for me, parts work to really get to the root of like that part of me that senses it's abandoned. And of course, it wasn't a younger child; it was actually an adolescent version of myself, especially that adolescent version that got rejected around when there was like the sexual development and coming into manhood and the what like attraction to women. So there was that part that got rejected. So now all of a sudden there's a wound there, there's an abandonment there, there's a rejection there, which is also the hidden wound. So now being able to connect to that part and let that part know, like, hey, rejection is part of the game. It's okay. It's not like, hey, listen, it's not a fit. It's okay. You're gonna get rejected. Like, you're not a fit for everybody. So being able to use the parts work to connect to that part of myself, I was like, oh, junk. I was able to rewire and bring that part of myself into a more secure space. So again, so what's the benefit of that? The wound's gonna be activated less, or maybe not at all, because now I've rewired myself and rewired that part of myself. Now the key piece here is, as I addressed and had these tools and tactics, now I'm looking at, okay, what do I do to embrace what's come up and grow? So the embrace and grow is what I was just telling you about. When I connected to that adolescent part of myself, is basically welcoming it into myself, like integrating it into myself, and really having this space of, what's the best way I could describe it? Reflection and gratitude. So the reflection is looking back on the journey of acknowledging this wound, how it came about, its birth, its journey, its death or transmutation, whatever, however you want to frame it. And then it's this reflection piece, looking the reflection piece of looking back on it, then the gratitude piece. Like, I know we talk gratitude, oh, be grateful, yeah. But really, it's being grateful for that wound because it was able to teach us something. And that's where I got that thought about the wounds on repeat. It's like when I used to listen to these old jazz records at my dad's house, right? And when it got to the end, it was just like tung, tung, or it hit a scratch. It would just continue to repeat until I went to address the record player and change it or move it to a different space. Or maybe take off some whatever is on that record that's creating the repeat or the skip. That's the thing. If like now it's once I've learned the lesson or gotten the message from the wound, then it stops repeating. You see, my friends, that's the key piece. And most of us live this way. We go through our situations and our circumstances and we're like, oh my God, this happened again. Yeah, because there's some wound that's at the root of this whole situation for you that you're failing to address. So that's why I put these four out here. Identify the wound, know when the wound comes up, have the tools and tactics to address it, which I gave my parts work, but it could be a therapist, it could be your coach, a family member that you trust and that you can this judgment free. You look, whatever. I can help you. I don't know. Like there's a whole bunch of things you could do. But there is a way that you can get support in being able to address this wound. And then once you've done that, now again, it comes back to this gratitude piece. Because listen, if that wound was open, it was a gas. That experience created an impact on you. And in our society, most of the times we're unaware of how we address the things that happen in our lives that impact us. Instead, we have a tendency to hold them in. That's why therapy is so popular. Tell me about what happened when someone stole your bike. How did it feel? Well, finally, you have an opportunity to let stuff go because you're wounded. You get an opportunity to experience and just like acknowledge that wound so that you can heal it. It can heal. A lot of times, instead of letting things heal, we leave it open. So I bring this here for you because I think it's important. I think especially with what we're going through in our society, a lot of wounds are coming up, a lot of things are coming up to activate and charge us. I just invite you with this video to really look at if you have those repeating patterns to really get a better understanding of what's at the root of the patterns that are repeating. And really look at like, is that repeating pattern, that repeating wound, is that really supporting you? Is it comfortable though? And if so, it's like it's time to get uncomfortable and start to move beyond this and really tap into what's meant for you. So listen, this is Paul. Thank you for checking in. Glad I got my rep in for speaking. Also, guess what? Your boy got some goodies. Look at that tee. Look at that sweatshirt. Just in time for the holidays, baby. Yo, listen, you can go to my Etsy shop. New wellness goodies. I got a bunch of stuff on that piece coming up, man. Listen, I'm getting the samples right now. This sweatshirt is nice. It runs a little bit big, but it's nice and comfy inside. Probably going to use this when I ride the bike in the wintertime and layer up. Got some other stuff coming in that's tippity top. But listen, whole bunch of stuff coming up. I'm excited, and again, I appreciate you all for checking in. If this resonated with you, like and share on your page, or like and share with someone, and then also like the YouTube channel, man. Hook it up, man. Subscribe, and then also remember we got the podcast from my man Brian Reitkin, More Than Black or White Health Podcast. Check us out. Subscribe on YouTube if you have yet to. Again, thank you, everybody, for tapping in. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I damn sure appreciate you. And I'm bringing in some music. Peace, everybody. Here comes the music.